at least in a C drama or in an Indian movie, you have the demon god and the holy god fighting each other. But at the end of the day, one of them turns into a black dragon and the other one turns into a white dragon. But they all turn into dragons and keep fighting. K and C drama fantasy genres offer an opportunity for Nigerians or Africans to just visually explore mythology and spirituality without it always being stacked up against Christianity. Hi, this is Aluchi again from the Curvy Cauldron. So last week we talked about the pipeline from African movies and TVs and entertainment to Asian movies and TV and entertainment with focus on Korean, Chinese, and Japanese entertainment. And today we're going to continue that conversation and I'm going to give you the remaining reasons I think is responsible for this pipeline, in my opinion. And this is from personal experience and from watching some people that are close to me or, well, some acquaintances, and seeing what their experience is as well. So, number three that we'll be talking about today is style, the fashion. Korean dramas take the cake for contemporary, eclectic, and chic fashion style. Queen of Tears, Band of Sisters, Mine, Penthouse, Crash Landing on You, Eve. It's okay to not be okay. And these are just a few I can name off the top of my head. Granted, a lot of them are, foreign designers, not Korean designers, but foreign designers. And their historical dramas are not too far behind with the fashion. Chinese dramas take the cake for traditional historical styles. I think there is a big handful movement going on over there now as well. But all their dynasties, from the Ming and the Qing dynasty, where they have I can't quite remember the name of the haircut. But the men shave here and then they leave the back, not shave, they leave it long. There's the popular, Tang dynasty um, costume that a lot of the movies, are set in Tang Dynasty. There's the costume is like that, but the men and the women and the colors, the embroidery, there is that draw. So shows like Marvelous Women, Story of Yanxi Palace, Empresses in the Palace, Rise of Phoenixes, to name a few. Their contemporary dramas are not lacking either when it comes to the fashion and style. It's just that I've noticed that some of them do have foreign designers, but I've noticed that they don't highlight labels as much, like all the Gucci and like the big names you see in K-pop. K-pop doesn't highlight not K-pop. K-dramas don't highlight the Gucci label or whatever label, but you can sense the designer, or I guess the aura and the way it's carried, the way it's talked about. They emphasize that it's a designer label that you can only buy from there. Sometimes they show the label's name, other times not so much. But I've noticed that in C drama, they make it a point that that person is wealthy, but they don't quite emphasize that it's a Western designer or a designer from Europe. They don't quite emphasize that. Now, tying this back, we Nigerians, of course, we don't have the exact same fashion as them. But there is this go big or go home factor, this zhuzh it up factor that is very present in Nigerian fashion and glam and old Nollywood TV that I grew up with, that there is an element of that in their entertainment, which is why even if you're not actively watching these movies, you're like, look at the style. It's gorgeous. So style and context of the style is a big draw, of course. And four, there is spirituality. Ooh. K and C drama fantasy genres offer an opportunity for Nigerians or Africans to just visually explore mythology and spirituality without it always being stacked up against Christianity. Um, Indian and Japanese media offer this too, to some extent. I mean, Japanese media anime offers this, but Indian movies also offer this because they have their own religion. They have like some overarching like big religions over there, but their mythology is not always stacked against um Christianity in that way, in the way that Nigerian movies are. um while the war between good and evil will always be there, it will always be a thing. At least in a C drama or in an Indian movie, you have the demon god and the holy god fighting each other. But at the end of the day, one of them turns into a black dragon and the other one turns into a white dragon. but they but they all turn into dragons and keep fighting, you know? Whereas anything that turns into an animal or a beast in Nigerian movies, especially if it turned from a human to that thing, they are automatically evil, and we must pour holy water on it and scream the blood of Jesus and destroy it. I say all this to say that, the widespread religion of Christianity has made it difficult for mythology that is specific to different cultures and tribes in Nigeria to be explored. These mythologies have become maligned, and even if you're seeking it out just for intellectual curiosity, a lot of it is now insider knowledge, and there's a lot of false information out there. Also, it doesn't help that a lot of our traditions are oral, and a lot of things from long ago are either lost or not deciphered properly. Um, if you look, I'm sure that anything, like if you keep looking long and hard and you're gung ho about it, you might find something, and you might find something that you can make something out of. But some African filmmakers, they still try to venture out on this path to make movies that are, either based on Mami Wata or Nancy the Spider or all those things. But their films are very niche, and if a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, if you look at the people making those movies, a lot of them are either in the diaspora. So let's say they're from Congo, but they live in the US, or so they have some of that safety blanket where um, they build an audience outside, so that even if the Christianity heavy audience back home doesn't support that project, they know that other audiences, other places will support it just out of intellectual curiosity and just out of knowing mythology. We are all drawn to mythology. Bible has a lot of myths in it, but a lot of that is lost in just the Nigerian movies I watched growing up. There will be mention of that. There will be mention of the Mami Wata and all these things, but it's not in a place where it's inherently evil, because it's that, and it's always stacked up against Christianity. Now, if there is something different and I am wrong, if there's some development now, I know I haven't watched a lot of those Yoruba movies, but if there's something there that doesn't that cancels out this point, please, please, please recommend, and please recommend where I can watch it, and the ones that have subtitles. I am always open and willing to go down this path. Number five is the storytelling. Bias will always be a part of life and thus a part of storytelling. But I have found that there are similarities between storytelling in Nigerian movies and shows that I watched growing up, um, with those in C and K drama entertainment, especially when it comes to telling women's stories, women centric stories, when it's done well. Women's stories in African movies that I grew up watching with Patience Ozoko and Genevieve and Naji and, all the hot babes, all the hot campus babes and the rest. They are told from a place, of course, they do have their cautionary tale and everything, but they are told from a place where um, there's minimal judgment while the story is being presented. So at the end, you will find yourself saying, okay, while I don't agree with so and so person's decisions, I see why they made that decision. It forces you sometimes to think about being in that person's shoes and if you will make the same decisions. So even though what that character did was morally gray, or the decision they made at that moment was not the most culturally appropriate decision, you start to see why they made that decision. There is a room. The room is created for the cautionary tale while also presenting them in a light of minimal judgment, if you know in that way. Now, this does not mean that characters that are horrible are not presented as horrible. They are. But there's a level of realness and understanding there. You can only fight something well when you understand it versus when you go in blind and, when the conclusion has already been somewhat drawn from the beginning. It totally reduces that chance of understanding that person or that character. When I think of this, I think of in the most recent drama that I've seen in the last 5 years, I think of the stark contrast between Shwizi in Marvelous Women versus Empress Fucha in Story of Yanxi Palace. Shwizi is what the girls like to say kind, and Fucha is what the girls would like to say is nice. And also her position was from the family she came from, falling in love with the king. She doesn't have that hunger that the other girls that had to fight to, not even for the king's love, just to make sure that their families are well taken care of. She doesn't have that hunger, but watching those girls run circles around her and her just falling on the sword with her I'm a nice girl persona versus Swizzy, who will fight you with one hand and hug you with the other. She was not as self-sacrificing as Empress Fucha. She is someone that she will fight the other woman. If you're gonna come in here and try to destroy her and tarnish her name and make them to send her away or something, of course she's gonna fight you. She's not gonna be like, oh, the king will protect me. No. But if you're in danger the next day and it's like a girl on girl thing, like, oh, this person is looking at you weird and she's there and she sees that it's not right, she will save you. She is that kind of person. So I like how there is that distinction between these women and the audience is left to judge at the end, seeing how these people turned out. I think of the mother and daughter dynamics in Story of Minglan, and I like how movies and shows, whether it's Nollywood movies or the C and K dramas, they give anti-hero women a chance to exist. A position that is always only afforded to men. It's also prevalent in this media, don't get me wrong, but in a lot of even a lot of Western media, like men are like they are afforded that anti-hero persona, whereas the women are just written off once they do one bad thing. So we see a main lead in a drama destroy a whole village, but the retort to be, but he saved the nation. This retort is not always afforded to women on the big screen all the time. She's either one way or the other, which is far from how the real world operates. But that on-screen pressure also forces its way into the real world, where women are pressured, and because women are community oriented, also pressure other women as well to fit in. I like that this media, when you find them, when they are done well, however few they might be, don't shy away from addressing those dynamics, and don't shy away from presenting these women in a light where there's minimal judgment and the audience is left to see how each person's life turned out, see how judge at the end. Of course, there will always be bias. Of course, there will always be cautionary tale. But I like that they're not doomed from the beginning. You know what I mean? Another thing with storytelling is that the darker themes pertaining to how we relate to each other as people are done well, whether it's in Nigerian movies or in this Asian entertainment. They're they're done well, and there is variety where they don't look all the same. And all this is done without excessively showing skin, although Nigerian movies have started you know getting in there. And I believe that there should be adult content, and there should be content for children, but then there should also be that content where parents can watch with their kids, that are adults, but there is no excessive showing of skin, there's no slapping and sex scene everywhere, so you can watch it with your parents, you can watch it with younger people. And a lot of the times, there was that, like when I was growing up, there was that communal watching of TV, communal watching of everybody in the neighborhood sitting down, and everybody calling the neighbors or all the cousins coming in just to watch something. Now, imagine if everything is always provocative, everything. If you can figure out what to add in that scene, slap a sex scene in there. But anyways, that is the conclusion of this part two of the pipeline, from African movies to Korean movies and dramas, and Chinese movies and dramas, and Japanese movies and dramas, and blah 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 blah. This is the conclusion of that. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something. I hope you have comments brimming in your head. And please like, please share, please subscribe. Bring a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure we're growing this channel, okay? Because while I will be motivated regardless, it is nice to see that you guys are enjoying this, so that I can bring more content to you, okay? So stay safe out there, drink your water, and enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful week.